Now it's time for today's perspective. And to research the background of my next guests, I turned first to the website of Human Rights Watch to see what the organisation has to say about human rights in the Philippines. It's not pretty reading. The organisation says that since the election of President Ferdinand Marcos Junior, who promised his administration would uphold human rights, well, little has changed from the previous regime of Rodrigo Duterte. The brutal war on drugs policy remains in place, with killings and violence. Activists, indigenous leaders, lawyers and journalists remain under threat, many still red-tagged and charged with spurious offences. It is that my guest today tries to fight against using art. Zach is a cartoonist and illustrator from the Philippines, and he joins me here on set today. Thanks very much for joining us on the programme. I pulled a couple of your cartoons out. I picked these out at random from those sent to us. Tell us about this first one. It involves a sort of peace dove, doesn't it? Why did you draw this one?
I think which...
Can we see that picture?
Yeah.
There it is. There you go. That one.
Oh, yeah. I think what I'm trying to portray is about the situation of the press freedom in the Philippines. I think in the Philippines, it's not like any other countries. There are other countries where there is total suppression of press freedom. But in the Philippines, it talks about, the dove symbolizes, the journalist. And you can say, you could report, and also do a commentary on many things. But there are some things, that might offend, that might provoke, especially some politicians, or some with business interest. So, those had, it represents the, like various methods that can be used to silence or intimidate journalists, one of which is the cyber libel law, which is supposedly to protect, from cyber attacks. But it's so sad that it's being used, against journalists, It's by the way, it's a criminal offense.
There's another one I pulled out, which is more obviously specifically just about the Philippine government. Tell us about this one.
Yeah, I think this is the cartoon, about talks about politics, regarding the Marcos regime, from 1986, they were removed by a peaceful people power revolution, and it is the Philippine government that actually recognized that there were around 11,103 victims of the martial law, many of which were tortured, were incarcerated, and most of all, many are killed. I think those are symbolizes the blood, And after for 36 years, they come around, and they were considered pariahs, but now they're having their comeback, to the palace representing the Philippines.
Where does this come from in you, your desire and your want to use your art? Because obviously, looking at those pictures, you're a very talented artist, but you've decided to use that in this way.
Yeah, I think I'm just being inspired. When I was a kid, when I grab a newspaper, the first thing I got is about all political cartoons. Because political cartoons, has ability to convey, the issues, in the political and the pressing political issues, in the country, compared with just reading the articles by just reading like 300 words, right? Cartoons can make you understand about the issue in just a few seconds. So I was interested in it. That's why I continued being a cartoonist, back in my high school, in college, and yeah, I decided, I want to take this to the next level, It's more of like, back then, I draw because of my hobby, but now it's more of like an advocacy.
There was a big change, wasn't there, in the Philippines last year with a new president. Were you hopeful at that point? Did you think there might be some kind of positive changes after the regime of Rodrigo Duterte?
Yeah, of course, at first, with the new government, I'm always optimistic. I don't like. I know it's not. I don't like to destabilize, or to do negative things. As a cartoonist, you always drew based on the truth, or the facts. And while in this new administration, there are some positive, and they deserve to be, but there are many pressing issues like the rising prices, and the inflation, which really deserves criticism. Especially that's why as a cartoonist, like it's your role as a social to do social commentary. So I just have to draw what I have to draw.
Is it dangerous for you? I mean, are you afraid?
I think at first, I mean, first of all, I accept criticisms, like when it comes to my cartoons, as a cartoonist, you have to accept them. But what was really happening is that you receive these comments, which is completely unrelated, when they say to you stupid, say to your, some swear words, and sometimes it takes a toll on your mental health. And especially when you draw some cartoons which are very controversial, sometimes you get death threats, like say, I think I'm gonna translate it from a local language, from our national language, that you're gonna be killed, by your own pencil. There's some, I mean, we're closely seeing, there are like various methods or cases, that's used against those journalists, dissidents, and activists, So what really keeps me driving, is like there are many organizations like the one that I am having, the Facts First PH, spearheaded by Rappler and Mayoressa. I think they've been doing solidarity among us cartoonists and also with human rights groups. So it really makes us, and many citizens, support, and what we do. So that makes us, like more. I mean, also with other cartoonists who are in the same advocacy that I do, or on the same side on what I believe in. So that makes us keep going, and I don't, yeah.
And talking about that sort of solidarity, you're here kind of working, if that's the right word, with Cartooning for Peace, taking part in some discussion groups, aren't you? You were in Le Havre yesterday. You're going to be in Thursday at The Hague at a ceremony of the European Cartoon Award as well. Why do you do that? What's in it for you, if you like?
Yeah, I mean, back in my home in the Philippines, aside from drawing cartoons, I also do my advocacy of, teaching and sharing to younger cartoonists. I'm a young cartoonist myself. I'm gonna motivate them and teach them, the tools, the methods. So I'm just very happy that I get to be invited in this, in order to share what I do. So there'll be a part where I'll be doing workshop, how to create political cartoons, step by step. Next, I get to share, the situation in my country, and most of all, we're gonna do a roundtable with our president, President Kak of Cartooning for Peace. We're gonna talk about the digital cartoons, and especially with with the advent of the AI. I think those are the pressing issues surrounding the digital cartoons in today's world.
Good to talk to you on the programme today. Thanks very much for coming in and putting a positive note on it. Zach, a cartoonist and illustrator from the Philippines. Thanks for